Welcome, I'm Dr. Tom Warren and you're watching The Plant Doctor. What I want to talk about today is Nellie R Stevens holly. Comprehensive review on Nellie R. Perhaps no other shrub or small tree is better at screening in my area than Nellie R. So Nellie R Stevens holly is going to be USDA zone 6 through 9. It can take full sun to part shade. Here they're in full sun and they do great. In terms of height, you can keep them pruned in that 6 to 8 foot range. These have never been pruned and they're pretty much mature. That 10 to 15 feet tall, 20 foot at the absolute max for Nellie R Stevens holly. Just a great screening shrub. Let's talk about pruning Nellie R Stevens. These have never been pruned. They have a nice, handsome pyramidal shape if you don't prune them. But if you're in an area where you want to prune or need to prune right after flowering. So these hollies are actively flowering for me right now. We're in mid-April. They'll flower from April to May. And prune right after that, but don't prune back so far that you cut the flowers off. So last year's wood, it flowers, and then after it flowers, the new growth comes out. What you want to do is just lightly trim off that new growth as it emerges, and it'll branch from there and get thicker and fuller than it already is right now. In terms of fertilizing Nellie R Stevens holly, they are going to like some nitrogen. As the new growth comes out on Nellie R Stevens holly, you may see some of the older growth start to yellow out. It's a little bit of a nitrogen deficiency. There's a specific fertilizer called Hollytone. I'll leave a link to that down in the description below for Hollytone. Does a great job for getting rid of those yellowing leaves, and then it also encourages that new growth. It's also an acid lover. This is a great companion plant for things like rhododendrons and azaleas, any of our acid lovers, and it can take a little bit of shade. It can't take quite as much shade as like a rhodea or an azalea, but as long as it's getting some morning or afternoon sun, that 4 to 8 hour window of sun, they're going to do just fine. Perhaps what Nellie R Stevens is best known for in the wintertime that gets a great red berry is actually a wildlife attractant. When there's not a lot of food for birds in the yard during December and January, this is loaded with red berries and the birds will just come in here and pick them off. It also makes for nice indoor flower arrangements during that time of year. Oftentimes we'll come out here and take little clippings off the Nellie R Stevens and use them for table arrangements or something like that, and it does a really nice job with that. And that's Nellie R Stevens. Guys, as always, thank you for watching The Plant Doctor, and until next time, happy gardening.